Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to our second episode of the last month, really, isn't it?
I
We
guess
had
so.
you're not. Are you on the official After Dark Podcast Network Army Facebook group? I mentioned you the other earlier today.
I
Um,
don't use Facebook that much, so I have literally no idea.
no. Yes, we had an announcement saying that after literally almost a year that Breaking Bollocks was back with an episode. And here we are again. I can't remember. I mean, it was between Christmas and New Year, wasn't it? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
but back again remotely because traveling to
oh
and
yeah.
fro is difficult.
Should we commence the episode? See, I've got a bit lax um, since we started again. I haven't really done uh, a full kind of thumbnail and shit like that for YouTube and what have you. I've just kind of put it out with a. It's just like, I mean, it's not like we get paid for it, is it? Nobody really gives a shit. They're just listening because
Yeah,
we talk
this
shit.
is
So,
the half-assed era of Breaking Bad.
um, but I'm still. So I thought it might be best to take off that end screen on the YouTube thing that says about going to our what is it, Spreadshirt page or the Patreon for exclusive episodes and shit like that because we
Okay.
we don't do that anymore.
I mean, if you want to still just support us, I'm a struggling student and you're a struggling
I
teacher.
I could put it back up, couldn't I? I mean, to be honest, we did get 50 quid from Twitch,
Oh, damn.
but
Is
that
that
was,
just off of our own Amazon Prime subscriptions?
yeah. So if anyone's out there who has an Amazon Prime subscription and feels generous and can be asked, if you can go, you get a free channel subscription on Twitch Prime if you've got Amazon Prime. And if you use it to subscribe to our channel, we get £2.50 a month off of you. That should be great if you can be asked. So I kind of subscribe to our channel from my other account on Twitch, and I must have done it for at least 20 months because we got a payout.
Damn.
I suppose I should give you half of that, shouldn't I?
I guess so.
Well, I'll take you out for a feed sometime.
Sure.
Do you know? I mean, it says 40 minutes. Do you think it'll give me a countdown when it's going to finish? Well, we'll find out because it used to be.
Oh,
I think it used to be that it was never ending if there was only two of you, but if you had more than two, then it was going to be limited to 40 minutes. But I don't know if that's still the case.
I also have a uni account that is attached to mine. I don't know if you do.
Oh. I don't anymore, but I do know that when I did have one, it gave me the pro benefits. But I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if that
if
was
it
a
still
COVID.
does. I think it was.
All
But
right.
anyway, have we started yet?
I think this is the pre-bollocks.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Should
been
I
a long time since we've done this much pre-bollocks. There's no timer on here. I can't tell how long we've
should
been
we do
recording.
an intro? I mean, you've got the proper audio recording, right?
Uh, what's proper? What do you mean?
Like Logic.
Oh, no. Well, Zoom is recording the audio on two separate channels for me.
Okay, if you say so. If
Uh,
that,
I mean, the only thing is if Zoom crashes, then we're fucked. But we can just have a chat anyway because I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks at least, have I? Well, since last year actually.
yeah, I
So,
guess.
I mean, that was kind of always what Breaking Bollocks was supposed to be, wasn't it? Just as having a natter.
I guess so.
So, um, well, shall we get started? Because I'm itching, I'm gagging to open my beer.
Sure.
Hang on, let me just. Earlier on, I had all sorts of just trying to remember how to get things set up. There were cockwombles all over the place. Anyway, uh, right, how do we do this again? Remind me, like you don't have to every time.
You just say, and I'm the arbiter after I say my bit.
I was going to say, oh, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Um, okay. Yeah, go on.
Hello, Internet. I am Virgo.
Und ich bin das Orbiter.
Christ.
Yeah, I've been doing Duolingo, getting ready for our trip to Hamburg in the summer. I got all excited when we went to Hamburg, me and Mum, to see Nightwish. Well, not all excited, but
Have you checked what the gender of orbiter is?
um, well, I'm assuming it inherits my gender because it's a proper noun, but I don't know.
Uh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
It's,
don't know if for like titles like that where it's I don't know.
do you know what I find really weird
I
though?
think gas in that context would be neutral.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. But see, Duolingo just gets you to repeat shit, so it doesn't really explain why you're repeating what you are. But
No.
it is really odd that egg is masculine.
Oh dear, yeah, it's fucking random. uh,
Well, what
there's
you?
a weird, like linguistic thing of I think it's in Spanish, like a key is feminine and in German it's masculine. And so Spanish speakers and German speakers are likely to describe it a key differently.
Ah, okay.
And
What
I
are
think
you? What are
table's
you?
feminine and
Quick! I've got beer and I haven't opened it yet. What are you drinking?
uh, rum and Dr. Pepper because it's all I had to hand.
Oh, I don't mean to be dragging you off the straight and narrow,
Don't
because
mind.
I haven't had a drink actually since can't remember. Must have been Christmas. I don't really drink. Um, in
I don't really
fact,
have a reason to.
yeah, the beer that I have is actually the leftovers that we stole from Granddad's house for Christmas. Lorian brought them over, and we were going to either return them to Granddad's garage, which is. Have you been in there recently? He has. Like, was that a cow in your room?
No, it's cards and stuff.
Oh, it sounded like a cow from here. Okay, so I am drinking Cairngorm Brewery Trade Winds, which is apparently citrus, wheat, and elderflower, light golden. Anyway, so yeah, just a quick explanation. I suddenly realised that I have a couple of evenings free, so I messaged Elwing and said, "Do you fancy doing a podcast?" And they were gonna surprise me with whether it was a break in borders or a break in bollocks on the episode, but then they spoiled it by telling me beforehand. So shame on you.
Fuck you.
Actually, it is a surprise though, potentially to both of us, depending on whether or not you've actually thought of a subject for this episode yet.
Oh, I have. Well, I have a big list of subjects from back in the day when we used to actually plan this shit.
Wow.
Because there's still things that we planned for, like, I guess, like, when did we stop doing this, like, regularly? I guess, like, 2020, 2019.
I don't know. I missed it though. Um, I must admit, I find these breaking bollocks more natural because I feel a bit. Did I say on chat that I feel a bit more restricted in because you've prepared all the stuff for breaking borders? I feel like if I start bullshitting too much, that I'm just kind of wasting your time.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it's supposed to be kind of just taking a look at a country because I'm a
Yeah.
nerd about that sort of stuff. But it was sort of more my idea that I got you into because of the music thing,
Mm, mm.
which is the thing that I was kind of like, have you actually prepared anything? Because
Well,
if it just surprised you, then probably not.
well, the thing is as well with that, if anyone hasn't listened to Breaking Borders that has listened to Breaking Bollocks or watched it, then you might not be aware that Elwing does all the historical stuff on the countries that we're looking at, and my responsibility is to find some examples of music from history of that country. And I think towards the end of our prolific period, it's like a historical era of Breaking Dad. I was getting more and more busy with sort of uni stuff and teacher training and stuff like that. So I was less and less prepared. So by the end of it, I was kind of researching and picking music while Elwing was doing the while the show was in progress, basically. Which is kind of what teachers do. Just make shit up as they go along in the classroom and make it look like you're not. Oh, I'm not very successful at making it look like I'm not, though, am I? Well,
Reminds me of a
you got to be
Rage Against
honest.
the Machine song.
How?
That's I can't remember which one it is.
I
It talks about a teacher stood in a classroom, uh, telling lies off the top of their head.
Well, I mean, there's going to be good and bad, isn't there, in everything? I'm honest with mine to a point.
It might be called Take Back the Power, or like that's like a common. Like, I can't fucking remember. Anyway,
It's a bit of a difficult one, though, when you're talking about America, because they don't get paid fuck all over there, the teachers.
no,
Oh, that reminds me. I hear you've been protesting.
yes, I have actually kind of in part organized protest in Aberdeen. It had about 100 people at it. It was
Really?
quite
Whereabouts was
surprising.
it?
I was down Castlegate, um,
Castlegate, Castlegate.
near Catcross, at the end of Union Street.
Is that like the open pedestrianised bit?
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. And need I? I was going to say if this had been a break in borders, I was actually going to say it's a bit ironic that we're kind of probably wanting to build one rather than break them at the moment. But
yeah. So, if you've not been following news, what we were protesting against was so the UK government has, for the first time in history, used Section 35 order, which is part of the Scotland Act, which was passed when like the Scottish Parliament was set up, which basically repeals or blocks legislation from being passed on to the king to become law because we still live in a fucking monarchy.
we could
And
just
the bill that was blocked was some fairly minor reforms to the Gender Recognition Act, which just makes it easier to get something called a gender recognition certificate, reduces the time that you need to have lived in your acquired gender for down from 2 years to 6 months,
yeah.
and removes like the requirement of a medical diagnosis and stuff like that. Given that a medical diagnosis in itself takes usually years of waiting because the NHS is broken, particularly for trans people.
Yeah. I decided for a change to listen to a bit of LBC news on the radio the other day because I've been listening to lots of podcasts, getting loads of driving time now, commuting to school. And there was a discussion going on about gender and gender recognition and stuff. And it occurs to me, actually, I was thinking just today that there are a lot of people out there because the person that was calling in was basically the presenter was saying that essentially what it comes down to is whether or not you have a penis. You can't be a woman if you have a penis, is what the presenter was saying. And the person who was on the other end of the phone, who was trans, was quite rightly pointing out that there's a lot more to it, that, you know, all the chromosome issues and stuff like that. But in just that's really condensing what was being discussed. But it makes me realize, thinking about it today, that there are actually a lot of people out there who must, even if they don't realize it, behave as though they think the only difference between like if you're male, that the only difference between you and a woman is the shape of your body.
Yeah, and it's quite remarkable that it's supposedly people that claim to be feminists that are presenting this argument, basically reducing gender down to, oh, well, you just have different genitals, therefore you must be
Yeah.
entirely different.
Well, actually, that's even more striking that way round, because if you are a feminist, then surely you would be adamant that it's far more than just the shape of your body that determines your gender. Otherwise,
Um,
what is all?
Most feminists and most women do think that there's a much higher support for this bill among women than men, which
I
is
mean, it's
hard.
like people arguing over triangles and circles. Do you know what I mean? If that's what they think the only difference is, if it's just shape based, then
Yeah,
it's utter bollocks.
there's just been so much misinformation around what the bill actually does. Because I
Yeah,
mean, you don't a gender recognition certificate basically allows you to change like the little marker on your passport and
yeah,
get a birth certificate with updated gender. It does technically make it illegal to also disclose the birth gender of someone that has a gender recognition certificate without their permission.
Oh, right. Okay. I did not know that. I mean, it makes sense, but that would be encouraging to know. But
Except for like specific circumstances of like medical or legal purposes, but even then they usually ask permission.
yeah, Nick on the network was brought up an interesting point as well. This whole argument about keeping. See, there's going to be two issues here, because I'm going to use the language that they use, the people that don't know what they're talking about, by saying keeping women safe in their single sex toilets. Because to me, the reason I say I'm using their language is because to me, the term women includes trans women. But what Nick was saying was you've never needed a gender certificate to get into a toilet anyway. So what difference does it make?
No, you don't need it for changing rooms either or domestic abuse
Well,
centre.
see, I don't know if this is the same in
The point that
England.
they bring up, but
I don't
they
know.
asked domestic abuse shelters, all of these experts on the issue, in two full public consultations over 7 years, and all of them said that this is legislation as it has been passed was fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know whether or not this is something that I haven't. I don't know what the situation is in England, but certainly for the last couple of decades at least, where we live, every time I've been to any swimming pool, the changing rooms have all been unisex. Like they're just, there might be a large family room that you can lock, but every changing room is just like you just have your own cubicle, and they're not even ceiling to floor like you have in toilets. So you tend to have in unisex toilets. So I just don't get it.
I mean, I've only once been, I think, in a changing room where they didn't have cubicles, and that freaked me the fuck out because I don't want to get naked in front of a bunch of strangers.
No, they always used to do that but that used to be. I remember that from my youth. That used to be when they were single sex changing rooms.
Yeah, but it's sort of. I mean, with both toilets and changing rooms, there's not really any need to gender them, as far as I see. Because
No.
why not just have single cubicles?
Yeah. Well, I know where I was doing some general supply work um, in November. They had all unisex toilets, but there weren't even doors. Like when you go to a loo in a public place, um, like a shopping centre or a train station or something, there's usually like some kind of barrier, some kind of doorway with some kind of barrier that means you can't see all the way into the toilet, basically. Well,
Yeah.
they don't even have a door on these toilets at this school, because there's just like a row of sinks down the middle with the cubicles off, and it's just basically just a recessed area off the corridor.
Yeah.
And it's like,
During the last couple of years at my school, they built a unisex toilet, and I will tell you, before they built that toilet, I think in my entire time at secondary school, I used the toilet, the boys' toilet, about 4 times.
yeah,
And I
and
didn't realize for years that that was possibly because I wasn't comfortable in that environment.
yeah. I mean, even where I am now, where they do have single sex toilets, the doors are all glass, so you can see all the way in now. And I think that's to stop people pissing about in lesson, during lesson time and stuff like that. But it's like, well, if there's no need to hide the interior of the area, then why not share it anyway? Um,
Yeah, but
and I
uh,
think it's a bit weird that, I mean, disabled toilets are all unisex. So why?
yeah, but sometimes you need to ask for the key to them, which fucks me off. Like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be the accessible toilet, and they make it completely inaccessible sometimes.
Oh, that reminds me. I do know now, because that brought back to my memory the assessment that you went through at the for your disability thing. Um,
Yeah,
if anyone wasn't listening to that episode when we talked about it, I've dropped me bottle top. No, that's
is
better.
that what you wanted to talk about?
No, it was just that at the DWP assessment centre.
Oh, yeah. I'm right across the street from that place.
You are actually, aren't you? Yeah, yeah. Is
Yeah,
it still open? Is it
yeah.
still an assessment centre?
Well, it still has a sign for that, so
Um, but yeah, but the disabled toilets were actually through a locked door in a different section, where you had to get a key to
yep.
access it from a receptionist that wasn't there.
Yeah, I've had it in like an Edinburgh shopping centre, I think Waverley, where you're supposed to get a key from a member of staff, but it's unclear who the staff are there because it's a shopping centre.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not fit for purpose in any situation, but specifically at a disability assessment center, it's kind of a joke. It's almost like they're just testing you
It,
before you can get
it's
in there.
it's not any. I mean, it kind of portrays what the entire assessment system is like.
You are not welcome here, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard it's still pretty bad, even now it's been devolved. Um,
really? Because Mum's had a thing saying that hers has been passed on to the Social Security Scotland now, and that only in extreme circumstances that they would need to necessarily see you face to face, that most of it would be done. Um, the
I
old.
know that it's now done over phone call, but I've seen some things of I think it was an MSP talking about they're a carer for someone
Right.
and having them extremely bluntly ask about suicide attempts and things like that,
All right. Okay.
extremely coldly
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well.
while it was on speakerphone, and
Oh,
the person that they were calling on the behalf of could hear what they were saying.
nice. Not. Oh, pardon me. Was that my
Uh,
first burp of the episode?
Possibly. It's not a particularly momentous occasion.
Have we chosen a subject yet, or should we wait till the end?
Oh, yeah. Well, I forgot to say, authority.
Oh, fucking hell. Right. Speaking of which, highly recommend his Dark Materials, the BBC series. It's now complete, all 3 seasons, and really, really good. The Authority being um, a thing, a thing in that series. Um, but yeah,
Watched it
from
one.
what?
I haven't watched it in a while.
It's really good. It's a bit of a tearjerker actually at the end. Did you read the books, the Northern Lights trilogy?
Uh, the first two,
Oh,
but I
right.
didn't
Okay.
read the last one.
Okay. That's good. Um, but yeah. So authority. Yeah, I'm supposed to have some of that now, aren't I? Do you think?
If you say so.
Well, what is it? I mean, so,
I mean,
I'm,
really, people only people or institutions only have as much authority as we let them have, as people who believe in the authority of a system or person. If
well,
your students don't believe that you have authority, then you basically don't.
I'm just trying to deconstruct the word because a linked word came. What's this? Oh, fucking hell! I'm getting a thing up on the screen saying upgrade to Zoom One Pro. And no, go away. Sorry, what was it saying? Uh, yeah, a linked word authorized came up in my head, and it was like, when you're authorized to do something, um, that's kind of being assigned a privilege, isn't it? But I sort of then took it a step further and thought about author. So it's really about kind of writing a situation, isn't it? Or being the creator of a situation, if you like, having the authority, I suppose, literally speaking, would be having the power of the writer of that scenario. Do you think? Like in a classroom, for instance, I'm the author of the lesson to the extent that I have the power to direct what's going on.
I I guess so. They might be linked linguistically.
Yeah, well, no, I was just thinking about that because the authority in that program I was talking about from the Neil Gaiman books is basically
Philip
metaphor for
Pullman, not
God.
Gaiman.
Philip Pullman, sorry, Neil Gaiman. Yeah,
He does Good Omens and
yeah,
Sam.
yeah, Philip.
So
Well done, gold star for you. um, I don't do that.
both of them are very cool people, by the
Yes,
way.
along with Terry Pratchett and Douglas Adams, all the same kind of
I'm also
slightly
still
different.
alive,
What?
but they're still alive, but
Well, yeah. Well, Terry Pratchett and Douglas Adams aren't they? No,
no.
they both did. Yeah. uh,
Sorry, continue.
I can't remember what I was saying. It was just, the authority in that scenario was a metaphor for the creator or God. Um, and I suppose that would be the writer of the universal story, if you like, if you're going to get really deep about it. But yeah,
I guess so.
you have the power to write what's happening or to author events. That's that tied up then. Right. What's the next episode about?
Well, I mean, I think it's a relevant topic given the recent news because it's sort of something
Oh, yeah.
the Section 35 order thing that um it doesn't feel like Scotland has any democratic power anymore.
Well, you see this thing about sort of a UK wide equality that they used as a kind of reason for it. It's like, well, how far does that extend? Because for as far as I know, I mean, I thought decades at least, but I think Mum was saying for hundreds of years, you've been able to come to Scotland to get married at 16, which you can't do in England without parental consent. So is that, there's plenty of things that aren't equal. Like we get free prescriptions here. We have that right. We have um, free tuition fees here, which they don't have in England. So is that not
Well, the
inequality as well?
argument that they're attempting to use is that it somehow undermines women's equality, but there is no legal way to really argue that because it doesn't change what you can do with a gender recognition
But
certificate.
again,
It
that
just changes how
argument
you get one.
But that argument relies on what I was saying before, that the assumption that trans women aren't women, which they are. So it's like until
Well,
you start
sometimes they try
including.
and cloak it with like, oh, well, sure, trans women are women, but how can we be sure that someone's trans really? And so they go, oh, well, they need a gender recognition certificate. And if we make it easier to get one of those, then who knows who could get one of them?
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, everything else. How can we be sure that everyone in the Tory party is a Tory? You know, it's like it's not the same thing, but you know what I mean? It's
Can be
like,
sure that they're knobs.
yeah. By the way, we have 5 minutes left before I have to restart the Dubry,
Okay.
or pay $120 for the right not to.
$120, Christ.
Oh, for the year, or you can do it for like
Hell,
$12 a month, but it's
it's not
I
worth
mean,
it unless you're doing like regular business meetings and shit over Zoom.
I suppose it's handy though that every 40 minutes or so we could have a piss break.
I suppose so.
I'm not needing it yet. We went to see Avatar 2 yesterday, me and Mum, when I was on strike. Well, it's a lot. I would go and pick it, and there was a rally actually up where I work yesterday because it's a different authority from where I live, but it's an hour's drive, and it's like having to pay fuel for that trip already, multiple times a week, and also not actually getting paid for that day.
Makes sense.
And also, I am a carer to a point when I'm here. So when Mum gets the opportunity to sort of get out and not be stuck in the house because I'm not available to take her places, then it's really my responsibility to see to her needs, Mrs.
To know that. Are you wanting to cut off the recording here and restart?
Why not? We should have some kind of celebratory address that we can have, like a sort of a temporary farewell to our fan base while we reset the timer of.
And we'll see you after the break.
Daddy, bye.
You stopped the recording. No, you haven't.
Oh, yeah, but I have to end the meeting. I've got to restart the meeting, not just the recording.
Oh, okay.
So I'll send you another invite. We're still on, by the way. Is this like sort of?
I guess intermission bollocks.
Oh, into Bollocks.
What the fuck's going on, man?
No, you're ready, like you're Hugh Hefner. Every moment's the future, right? This moment isn't like the last moment. The last moment's gone, now we're in a new moment. And now we're in another moment. And now we're in another moment. That's how life works, man.
Fucking hell. I've never listened to Eddie Smith's music.
Bicycle on a hillside desolate. Will nature make a man of me yet?
And then Led Zeppelin.
Hey, mama.
Try wanking to that, mate. Your cock just ends up like a lump of meat.
Like, stop. It's like a wanking training exercise.
Covered blood at the end.
Proper rock and roll.
Be youngin'. Beautiful.
I can't believe you never listened to the Smith.
Driving in your car. Never wanna go home. The cat is dead and I hate you. All
From
children
the
are
Queen's
born.
dead. Come on. I can't argue.
I'm a starman and I'm floating in the sky. I've got a funny ear and I've got a gammy eye. Somewhere over the rainbow, I like
Yeah, he
to
said,
eat
yeah.
potato, and I've got an elongato. I like cheese.
One night only. Oh, back George. Come, cod liver oil.
I've done a poo. I've done a wee. My catheter needs emptying, goes all over the floor. My piles are green, but I still suck cock.
You're in a right creative flow today. Your creative energies are unlocked. They're just flowing through you and out.
And it's the content we're giving Paul Brill today. He could release an album.
A double album.
How
When was
much
it?
is that jar
Oh.
in the window? The one with the waggly tail. Christ, we winding up.
Yeah, I've got some bits to do.
I've got to go and shave my balls.
Yeah.
I know what 8-year-old boy balls feel like.
You got to be careful when you do that.
So, I mean, pending your agreement to this, I was just thinking, like, if we're going to do these in 40-minute chunks, I could do some cross promotion because I have lately penned some more musical. In fact, I think I was working on one of them when you were here at Christmas. Some musical snippets for other podcasts. So, with your permission, that break that we've just had, I'm going to slide in the this or that tribute for anyone to cross promote and recommend this or that.
Sure, it's our advert.
Yeah, there's a new one coming up actually that I've done a new sting for as well called That Streaming Podcast, which I think is going to be discussing things like on Netflix and Amazon and Disney Plus and all that sort of stuff. So I'll shove that in the next break. But in the meantime, I was just thinking not while I was actually going to the toilet, but more when I was coming back up the stairs, because it would be a bit weird if it was while I was actually going to the toilet, that I was thinking that it feels like the bollocks are back in full swing. I was just thinking, like, the last episode felt a bit strained, not strained, but like it had been a year almost. And I don't know, but it feels more natural remotely now. Maybe it's because you and I haven't talked for a few weeks properly, and we were fed up with each other. Well, no, you know what I mean. Like when you're sort of in the same house all the time, you're kind of less enthusiastic to speak to each other.
Great.
Yeah, that didn't come out right, did it? Really?
It's fine. No, I get what you mean.
I don't know. In other words, it's good to get to have a chance to catch up. Where the hell were we? Where were we? What were we saying?
We weren't saying much of any importance
Before the break.
Authority. Well, so the thing right now. Sorry, the main thing on my mind is this Section 35 thing, and it's a kind of a historic moment for Scotland because this could be the thing that tips a lot of people towards independence if devolution's being undermined.
Well, I was going to say there's a few things at the moment that the Tories seem to be pushing a bit too far, in my opinion. I mean, we'd already lost the right to make noisy protests a while ago, but now they're trying to get through. I don't know if it's got through yet, but they've certainly had the first reading of giving the police powers to stop a protest before disruption is caused, like the sort of slow marches and basically not even noise, just disruption.
But basically, I mean, it is basically outlawing protests so long as the police don't like it, which is an incredibly authoritarian thing to do.
Which seems very auspicious timing for them, bearing in mind all the shit that's going on with unions at the moment and the anti-strike legislation they're trying to get through, because the only recourse that people who want to object are going to have is actual protest.
Yep. I mean, also, the other sort of thing that is making me feel like it's difficult for Scotland to really have any democratic power right now. Is the other big party in Westminster, which will probably win at the next general election, Labour, is led by Keir Starmer, who has failed to oppose the government on most of its actions, be it this block, given that Scottish Labour had a majority of their MSPs voting for this bill.
Mm.
Four of the five parties in the Scottish Parliament did. Even Free Tories voted for it. So it's sort of it's just, but
Well, I mean,
it just feels like whatever Scotland votes for at the next general election, it's not going to matter if Westminster just gets to overrule everything that Scotland wants.
what I was going to allude to when connecting all those different ways that the Tories are trying to exert their authority is a bit like that scenario in a classroom where a teacher's losing control and they have to just start really cracking down. Do you think it's a sign, the fact that they're cracking down as much or trying to crack down as much as they are, do you think it's a sign that they are actually losing that authority that you...
Yeah, they have fucking no support anymore,
Mm,
even from within their own party. They are a joke now.
yeah,
After Truss, like it's going to be difficult to rebuild that before the next general election.
yeah,
They
yeah.
might still manage. They managed a couple of times where it seemed like they were at risk of being destroyed as a party, and yet they came back swinging because whenever they failed, they seemed to just go back to, oh, drum up some lies about immigrants or whatever minority we hate this week.
What worries me though slightly is that, well, greatly actually, is that this kind of erosion of democracy is it's a slow burn up to a point, but then it's almost like there seems to be a kind of a race to the point beyond which the democratic principle isn't relevant anymore because they just have that autocratic system in place where they can just dictate. Do you know what I mean? Beyond a certain line, it's kind of it's too late. They just have the power.
Also, introducing new voter ID laws that mean that if you don't have a passport or driver's license, which as a young person you're less likely to because you're less likely to be able to drive or have gone abroad. There are other forms of ID accepted, but funny thing about that. So I think it's the rail card, the over 65 rail card is accepted as a form of ID, but the young person's rail card and the disabled person's rail card isn't.
That can't be legal. I mean, that's
they make the rule that it is legal. When they do something unlawful, they just go, "Oh,
clear age discrimination.
Let's just change the rules." And with a big enough majority, when they have not gotten a majority of votes, they can do that because the first past the post system is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake. Anyway, I've been teaching Flower of Scotland at school this week.
Nice.
And I didn't realize it amused me, but there's a line about something about sending Edward's army back south again to think again. But there's a chant in between the two lines that I hadn't realized was bastards.
Oh no, because it's often played at the end of a night of karaoke at the Boulevard.
Yeah.
People will chant wanker.
Yeah, that's the other option. Yeah. It's either bastards or wankers. I had to look it up because I couldn't really tell what it was. When you play in a clip of 70,000 people singing it at Murrayfield, it's difficult to make out exactly what it is they're saying. You get the gist.
Way a bit above.
Yeah. Because we're doing Scottish music and the kids were asking, "Oh, can we do the national anthem?" And I'm like, do we have to? But then I realized they weren't talking about God Save the King.
Yeah. It's quite a decent Anthem, all things considered.
Yeah. Yeah,
It might be a little bit controversial, but I've been getting into like Irish Republican songs.
yeah, but it's no more more controversial than Britannia ruling the waves, is it? It's like,
Yeah, but some people get all because they've lived through the troubles and stuff.
and send him victorious. It's like that implies that somebody's been defeated if you're declaring victory. You know,
Yeah.
it's empirical linguistics. That's a funny face. Pardon me.
Well, I think there is a line in. I think it is in "God Save the King" now. I guess that's usually missed out, talking about crushing rebellious Scots.
Oh right, okay. Is that in the second or third verse or something?
Maybe I don't know, but I think it's later on, but it's usually cut out for that reason. Because well, when it was written, the Jacobite rebellion was happening.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's this thing that you were saying about blocking the Gender Recognition Act being presented to the king. Can we not just turn up at Balmoral next time he's up here? So here you are, sod the Tories. You're in our land now.
I don't know if he comes up to Balmoral. I don't think he's particularly liked in Scotland.
Well, sorry, I couldn't resist that because I'm a knob.
That you are.
So next,
I mean, so sort of key to authority, which we've kind of been building up to, is you have to call that out for what it is, and it's on the rise in much of the world. Is the Tory government is fascist? It's fascism.
well, yeah, but yeah, it is. But I'm not so sure that
Early stages, sure, but it's getting there.
it's always been there since, I mean, at least as far back as the Romans, isn't it? Because, I mean, when you look at sort of national, I can't remember where it is. Is it at the White House or somewhere that they do something official in America? They've actually got the fasces are a symbol that's part of the ceremonial kind of decorations there.
Well, that's because before Mussolini coined the term fascism, it was kind of a symbol of, well, basically the idea is it's a bundle of sticks, right? And the idea being that if you stick together, you can break one stick, but you can't break a bunch of sticks. But that was sort of that's kind of a socialist message, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, is that not the opposite of what?
Well, Mussolini was part of the Socialist Party, but he got kicked out of it and then founded his own party with this. So fascist sort of ideas are kind of littered with them trying to appeal to the people using these ideas, but not really using them.
Is this part of that whole different kind of axis of politics? Because it seems like everything goes full circle, because you get the libertarian or the right tend to accuse the left of being fascist because they're talking about taking away freedoms.
I mean, I think they're kind of, I don't know what freedoms they really mean is the thing.
Well, I think it's when you get people criticizing freedom of speech, like when people say things that are racist or homophobic and then they get called out on it, they kind of act as though they're being dictated to how they can think and speak and stuff like that, that their freedoms are being eroded.
All they're really doing with that is saying that they don't believe you should have the freedom to criticize them.
Yeah.
Because it's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech means that you're free to be told to fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not freedom from consequences, is it?
No. I mean, really what that's supposed to mean in principle is that you're not going to be arrested for saying certain things, which there's the different ideas on, because there is real harm that can be done by speech. For example, in Germany, it is illegal to deny the Holocaust,
Right.
because of the implications of that, and that has a very different meaning to going, oh, freedom of speech in the US, because
Yeah, I was reading a thing actually that I think it's the Humanist Society had made a point of that there's a large amount, the blasphemy laws are supposedly been repealed. I think Scotland was actually quite late doing that, but certainly in England and Wales it had been repealed for quite a while. But even now there's a high percentage of complaints that are upheld by the Advertising Standards Authority on the grounds of religious offence, which is essentially blasphemy. So even though the law doesn't recognise blasphemy as an offence anymore, the Advertising Standards Authority don't follow that through.
also, I mean, something here is that freedom of speech isn't really actually legally protected in the UK. I mean, so the annoying thing, which is kind of part of what we've been talking about today, is the UK doesn't really have a constitution. So when stuff like this happens and there's a disagreement over what the UK government or the Scottish government are allowed to do within their authority, it gets taken to the Supreme Court, which means that I think there's no reason for this to be blocked. So if the Supreme Court has to get involved, then I think it will rule in favour of the Scottish government. But
does this not kind of, I mean, the fact that there isn't a written down constitution and the fact that it has to go to a court, does that not essentially mean that in real terms the government doesn't actually have any authority?
It means in real terms the government doesn't really have any restrictions, because if it wants to, it can basically change the rules at any point. Things like the freedom to protest and freedom of speech are protected in other countries' constitutions. Germany has, I think, 2 fundamental articles of its constitution that you can't repeal.
Right, okay.
One of which is that the sort of fundamental human rights, which can only be added to, not taken away from. And one of which is that if the government is in breach of the constitution, the people are allowed to use violence to overthrow the government.
Do you happen to know when these 2 principles became law there?
I think it would have been after World War II, when West Germany was formed.
Right. Okay.
Because I think Germany as it stands just basically is kind of a continuation of West Germany.
Yeah. Yes. Interesting.
But the UK has, I think, what's called an uncodified constitution, which is like 4 different documents. I think the Scotland Act is one of them, because it concerns matters of devolution, and that's quite like constitutionally fundamental. But some of these are incredibly old and outdated. And basically what that means is if a law is passed by Parliament, usually that means that if it's in contradiction to another law that was passed by Parliament, it just supersedes it if it's more recent.
Do you know, I think this episode is actually, because I was just about to go on to another point, but before I do, I'd like to point out the meta in the last episode, the absence episode, and the absence of a link to the subject of the podcast, if you like. But I'm wondering whether or not talking about the word authority, because we often come down to meanings of words with this. I wonder whether or not it's sometimes or often confused with control, in that what you'd said earlier about if you have authority in the classroom as a teacher, then you don't need to exercise, like, do you know what I mean? In that authority is maybe something that's inherent in a situation, whereas if you don't have it, you might need to exert control.
Yeah,
It's not actually authority, because you're not taking anyone with you. You're just forcing something to happen rather than commanding it to, if you like. No, not command, but, you know, I don't know. It's
but
difficult.
when the country's been basically on strike in every public sector for almost a year now, most people do not support the government, and most people think that Tories are bastards.
That's true. I mean, clearly they don't have any authority. Otherwise, people would be back in work.
You know, a funny thing that I saw recently about that,
What?
the government would have saved more money by making a settlement earlier on because of how much money has been lost due to the strikes.
Yeah.
So they'd literally just sat down and talked with the unions as they were supposed to and gotten a settlement, then they would have saved money by now.
It sickens me, though, how they're trying to turn it into now being that the poor levels of service, especially within the NHS, that they're trying to make out that that's due to the striking, and that this minimum service levels bollocks is going to.
The striking's kind of due to the fact that the NHS is at a breaking point.
Exactly. I mean, there's never been minimum
because of their privatizations.
The minimum service levels aren't in place when everybody's at work, so that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just. I mean, so I think basically what the Tory strategy is now is this sort of culture wars idea, if you've heard of that, kind of being anti-woke and all that shit.
Well, it's divide and conquer, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's kind of the old strategy of any fascist.
The media don't
just drum up some hatred against one group and go, hey, we're going to solve this problem, so you should vote for us. Meanwhile, Labour are stood by going, oh, well, we'd do that more efficiently, actually.
Yeah.
Rather than actually opposing any. It's such a depressing situation in the UK right now.
Well, yeah. I'll be interested to see how this whole independence situation pans out, because where was it? I saw it was only in the last week or two that I saw something about that. Is it 19th of October this year that the independence vote referendum was supposed to be taking place?
Yeah.
And it's still
no. Well, because so their original plan was to go to the UK government and ask for a Section 30 order, which would pass on the authority to the Scottish Parliament to vote to hold a referendum.
Yeah.
That didn't work because the UK government basically just goes, no. And then they went to the Supreme Court because the idea is that the union between Scotland and England at the time was a union of equals, meaning that Scotland would have the authority to, well, basically be equal to England in its own self-determination. And if it wanted to leave, it could leave, but that's kind of quite vague because it wasn't really assumed that that would be the way in which things would happen, and it's kind of all a mess. But that failed because they got ruled against by the Supreme Court, which isn't necessarily the Supreme Court's fault. It might just be how it's written. It doesn't actually say that, which is kind of also part of the problem.
No, but I mean,
Then they switched to a strategy of saying that at the next general election, they'll treat that as basically a de facto independence referendum.
yeah.
They've kind of since backed away from that strategy, from what I've heard. And so, if people in Scotland want Scotland to become independent, how the fuck are they supposed to
Well,
get that to happen?
The point I was trying to make was that it was literally in the last week or two that I saw something on an official page about the 19th of October being the date, the crunch date, if you like, as though that was still going ahead. And I don't know whether or not it was just a mistake that somebody had posted something that should have been kind of not posted at this point, or but I can imagine if nothing changes from the situation at the moment, that 19th of October up here could be quite interesting, because it's like, it's quite a symbolic date, like, because that was the date that was set for the referendum that we're not being allowed to have now.
Yeah. Would be weird.
I don't know how far things go in terms of, I mean, you say the Supreme Court, that's the UK Supreme Court, isn't it?
Yeah.
But is there higher than that in Europe? Do we have that still?
There is
that wasn't
the
you, was it?
European Court of Human Rights, I believe. And there's also, at very high levels, the International Court of Justice, but that's more for trying war criminals than dealing with internal politics.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, the UK government was trying to withdraw from the European Court of Human Rights.
Talking about international. Sorry, carry on.
No, international what?
Talking about international political situations, I don't know if you've seen any news today, but I think the axis of evil's back on the agenda.
Where?
Well, that the America's been saying that Iran are providing support, weapons support to Russia. Apparently now they're saying that there's a sufficient a significant amount of evidence to support the belief that North Korea are providing Russia with weapons support. And I just thought it's just getting a bit, because Iran aren't officially a nuclear power, are they yet?
There's not really any strong evidence that they are. The US and Israel just like to occasionally go, oh, they're going to get nukes, but it's the exact same shit with Iraq.
But North Korea have nukes?
North Korea does have nukes, yeah. They're not particularly good ones because they couldn't reach the US from North Korea.
Yeah, but did they not test a delivery system that could?
I think the furthest they could reach is some like US territories in the Pacific.
Oh, right, okay.
But well,
I mean, they might take out Boris Johnson then. They might take out Boris Johnson when he's on holiday then, who incidentally has been paid £1 million for some speaking gig or something.
Christ. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Is he still an MP?
I don't know. I don't know. Is he still not under investigation?
I thought the investigation concluded and he was fined, but maybe it's a different investigation.
Are you sure that wasn't Trump? Oh no. Okay,
he got fined for the Partygate thing, along with Rishi Sunak, who is now Prime Minister, which makes complete sense.
I'm losing track of all the corruption and bollocks now. I mean,
Rishi Sunak kind of got off light with that in the press.
Did you see Rishi Sunak got caught posting a social media video taking his seatbelt off while he was driving in a car? But the funny thing about it was that in the video that he's been filming for this social media post, you can see he's in a convoy at the time, and you see a police motorbike pulling up alongside him. It's like, It's like you couldn't write it. It's like it's either a clear statement that the rules don't apply to him, or he's just not thinking. But
There was also the weird thing a while back of him asking a homeless person if he was interested in getting into finance.
what?
He was doing like a photo op at a homeless shelter and
Is
was like talking to a homeless person.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly the plot of Trading Places, isn't it?
Well,
You've seen
they
that?
didn't actually trade places. He was just
No.
extremely awkward, which I think that's what the current strategy is just don't show Rishi Sunak as much as they did for like Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, and then they won't lose as much support anymore because the more that you see of the Tories, the less people like them.
Yeah. Anyway.
I did also see, kind of speaking of fascism, a Holocaust survivor confronted Suella Braverman about the language that she'd used to talk about migrants, talking about them being a swarm and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember seeing something about that. I don't know if I saw the whole clip, but
I think the Home Office trying to demand that the organization Freedom from Torture took the clip down because it had supposedly been edited, but
all right.
only really edited to because there was a gap between the question being asked and the question being actually answered because she went to answer a few other questions first.
Right, okay. Well,
But she basically just went, "No, I won't apologize for what I've said." After being confronted by a Holocaust survivor saying that it reminds her of the language used against Jews.
uh-huh. Hang on, I'm just doing something I shouldn't be. That didn't sound right, did it? I'm just trying to make sure that I've got an automatic backup Dubry thing, and see if it does start backing up when you're in the middle of doing something online. It can be a bit of a go away. Sorry, I'm being a bit shit.
It's fine.
In terms of podcasting etiquette. 8 minutes left. We do chatter on, don't we?
I suppose we do.
I don't know. I mean, if you there seems to be this kind of unwritten kind of assumption that we're going to carry on for at least 2 hours now, doesn't there?
We don't have to, but I mean, I've still got some things to say. Authority is quite a broad topic, and we've mostly been talking about the news.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, go on then. Bring something else up that's not, because it's difficult to talk about authority without relating it to the news because everything's so authoritarian at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's sort of fundamental philosophical part of authority.
Yeah.
I mean, I would consider myself to be an anarchist
Right.
in the sense, not necessarily in the sense of the literal sense of anarchy, in which means without government or without rulers. I mean, I suppose without rulers, yeah, but
in what sense would you mean it then?
well, I mean, so in the US, you get these libertarian, like anarcho-capitalists that proclaim to be anarchists because they're against the government telling them what to do.
Yeah.
But they would seem to be fine with corporations doing whatever they wanted because they're against the government regulating any corporations and things like that.
Right.
Because they see the government doing it as bad, but if they were employed by a company, that basically governs their lives with the rules that they have to follow. Say you're employed by a company that says that you can't say certain things on social media, or you can't even be sick for a certain amount of time. You can't do this, that, or the other thing because you belong to that company. That is being ruled by the corporation that you're employed by. And that's not necessarily a choice, because if you have no choice because you need to survive under capitalism, they have power over you. That's the fundamental part of authority.
Yeah. How far would you take that in terms of, because I think probably most companies restrict saying certain things on social media if they're about the company. I mean, I know when I used to work at Schmomino's, we weren't supposed to mention or say anything that might bring the company into distribution. I don't think we were supposed to even mention the name of the company or appear in public or online with the uniform on, or represent the company in any way outside of work, if you like.
Yeah, and that's sort of a small scale version of the power that that company has. But
surely, if you're a benign employer, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about. If you keep your employees happy, then surely they wouldn't have anything bad to say or negative to represent you as.
Yeah. And then you have sort of the union busting, which a lot of corporations do, particularly in the US, where there's not particularly great laws on stopping that. Or a lot of people don't know that they're not supposed to do that legally.
There was a bit of a conundrum actually in the National Association of Head Teachers is the union in England, I think, and Wales maybe, but definitely England, that didn't have enough of a turnout to. They had, I think, about 80-something% in favour of striking, but they only had a turnout of 40-something%, so it wouldn't carry. But they're considering reballoting, because one of the reasons they think that they didn't get enough of a turnout is because it has to be a postal ballot, and the post office were on strike. So they didn't get all of their postal ballots in, which I thought was quite ironic. But anyway, we have less than 3 minutes left before I have to reset the meeting. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Swig that rum and Dr. Pepper.
Well, it's no longer got rum in it because I would have to stand up to get rum.
You can't stand up anymore. Is that how much you've had?
I just don't want to interrupt because we're about to go on break, so I can put a stop on doing that.
Yeah, it'll probably be a few minutes again, because I didn't want to interrupt the process of converting that last chunk in case we lost it. So we'll have a few minutes and I shall post you. It is the same link, but I'll just post it again when I'm finished so that you know when it's ready.
Okay, cool. We'll be back after these adverts.
Well, after this advert, I think it's something to do with Dave Andrews.
If you say so.
Who's apparently a work colleague of Craig's, but has earned the honor of being the theme tune for that streaming podcast somehow. I don't know if he listens to us, but if you do, Dave Andrews, here's your theme tune. I'll see you in a minute. Oh, hello. I have to do something. Hang on. This is a live, hang on. Wave. Okay. Sorry, I just WhatsApped Craig to let him know to expect an episode. Pardon me. Oh, right. Where were we?
Fuck knows.
Oh, I was about to open a
Not
hot.
addressed it yet, but for those that are watching the video of this on the YouTube, do we upload this with the video?
Yeah. Well, this episode we will. What? The last episode went on YouTube and Twitch as well. But
Yeah, but will people be able to see us
yes,
if they're watching
I
on
think
YouTube?
so.
Yes, we haven't addressed that I'm sitting next to a fridge.
Oh, you're there. Is that
Yeah.
so you're in your living room?
Yes,
Yes.
we
Well,
have a fridge in the living room because the one in the kitchen is too small.
I congratulate you for not having run to hide in it yet.
I don't think it would protect me from.
So
Any-
I've just opened a Hobgoblin Gold,
Oh, nice.
4.5%, Witchwood Brewery. I have a King Goblin downstairs, but I think I might leave that till later. That's a 6.6. But what kind of rum are you on? Is it just supermarket rum or?
Cheap shit. It's white.
Is it
Liberté from
What?
overseas. Liberté.
Liberté? Where'd you get
Yeah,
it
that's what it's called. I have like Lidl, I think.
from? All right, okay. It's one of those. I mean, it's going with Dr. Pepper, so, you know, I suppose it would be a bit of a waste to put, I don't know, what's good
It's
rum?
fucking good.
What?
Dr. Pepper's fucking good. I'll not have you slander it.
How strong is that? How much rum are you putting in those?
I don't fucking know.
So you're playing bridge tomorrow, are you?
Possibly. It depends how many people are there that haven't played bridge before because it's like our first event of the semester. If there's anyone new, then we might not play bridge so that we can just get to know people. But
All right. Oh, say hi to the knob for me. I don't mean it. I love you, really.
he did notice that we'd published a podcast, so I think he still listens.
Still on the feed. Okay.
Possibly. I don't know. We might just follow things and not listen, but
I mean, it's a lot to commit to, isn't it? Listening to 2 hours of us talking bollocks.
I suppose so.
I believe I will actually be listening to our last episode quite soon because what happens is I've got a certain number of podcasts in my subscription feed on my podcast app, and they just automatically download when new ones come out, and I just don't listen to the most recent one, and I've nearly got as far back as our last episode. So
See, I can't stand watching our stuff because
I don't watch us.
well, watching or listening to our stuff because it's an annoying thing of, especially when you're being a knob. I think of a thing.
When does that ever
then
happen?
I hear myself say it because my brain works the same way as
Yeah, but you know what?
during recording.
The thing is, me going, when does that ever happen? I'm going to be in the car saying that to the podcast when I'm listening back to it, and probably saying all of this as well. And I'm going to be like seeing how far I can parrot myself in time with myself, and then I'm going to just get lost and lose the plot.
Bananas.
There'll be some kind of temporal displacement. Bananas?
Yeah, I was just trying to say a random word that.
I've usually got a banana with me, actually.
Why?
Because I'm on my way to school and it's in my packed lunchbox. Oh, see, I've only had one bottle of beer and I don't drink. So I've got to that silly stage already. I am such a lightweight.
You're not on hormones.
I'm not a who?
You're not on hormones.
Oh, how do you know? No, I'm not. But
I'd assume. Although, if you were, which you could be for like prostate cancer or something, it's a lot easier for you to get them than it was for me.
it's been a long time since I made a hormone. Oh no, that's a horrible joke. I was just going to make that joke, and it's really bad, isn't it? You know the joke I mean, don't you?
Yes, I think, but I'm not going to say anything.
The hell do you make a hormone?
Wow.
Don't pay her. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's wrong. I'm a bad person.
Well, it's not as bad as what I thought you were going to say, so
Oh, what were you going to say?
nothing. Anyway, continuing with authority.
Yes. Oh, I've never noticed that before.
Oh.
It says Zoom on my taskbar. Sorry, carry on. Authority. I got expelled from school by a figure in authority when I was a teenager.
I got excluded a couple of times, but never expelled, thankfully.
Did you?
Yeah.
From was it primary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mind you, there was about a year and a half that we couldn't actually get you into school.
Yeah, I have fuzzy memories of that period, and that might be.
Mm.
I mean, it might just be because it was a long time ago and I was young, but I feel like other people remember that period in their life better than I do.
I don't know. I mean, how old would you have been? It was
7, I think.
yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think some people do, but I certainly don't remember much back past the age of 7.
I mean, you had a pretty traumatic childhood.
I was just going to say there was a very big change at that age, and there'd be a good reason for me to have blocked a lot of it out before then. So, I mean, it might be a similar kind of situation for you, not in terms of being subjected to abuse, obviously, but
well, not from family, but
yeah, but you know, I mean, through that whole sort of period of diagnosis and kind of working through a lot of shit, I suppose, at that age. And it's a young age to be going through that kind of. That reminds me, actually, Nick has just had a diagnosis at the tender age of God knows what now. I think he's about 30, but he's
70.
He's 70. He's just got a diagnosis for autism and ADHD. So congratulations, Nicholas.
I was supposed to apply to go on the waiting list for ADHD diagnosis. I sent the documents to them, but they wanted it in a PDF format, and I've forgotten to do that.
Is that not additional evidence, though? The fact that you've forgotten to do that?
Well, it took me several months in the first place to even get around to filling them out. So, yeah. I feel like most people with ADHD for that system will either do them immediately because they know that they're going to forget, or not do them for months.
Sorry, I had a bit of a shock there because I just took quite a few swigs from my from my hobgoblin and forgot that I'd changed to a different beer and it tastes different and it shocked me. You know, like, have you ever done that when you pick up a bottle of something and you think, for instance, that you're going to drink milk and it happens to be Coke, or you think you've got tea and it happens to be coffee? And
yeah, that really
brain just goes, what the fuck? And it just tastes really wrong just for a second.
Yeah, like if it's like, I think I've had that before where I thought I was drinking milk because my brain was on autopilot and it was like orange juice, and that just tastes awful.
Yeah, because you think, Jesus Christ, how off has this gone?
Yeah.
So how's third year for you? Are you coping? How's it feel? How's it feel knowing that you're going to graduate next year?
Well, actually, I won't, because integrated masters.
You what?
An integrated master's, which means I do 5 years.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, assuming I don't change just to get the bachelor's, because I think, as far as I can tell, I can do that at any point because fourth year is basically the same.
Do you still get full funding for the 5th year?
I don't know yet.
No. I mean, if it's anything like my situation, because I think you get a spare year in case you have to go back a year, or repeat a year. But I think I'd already used mine, because I did the sound production course. But I think when I'm talking about doing the masters next year, I think half of the tuition fees are covered, and then you can apply for like scholarships and bursaries to cover as much of the rest of it as you can. I think it was kind of, I was going to have to find a grand or two, something like that. But on top of that, you can still get all of the student loan
Yeah.
as well. From what
I mean, I will have a bit in savings.
Yeah.
And thankfully, your financial situation has improved. So if I do need any support, that I'm not like completely alone. But
You're coming cap in hand live on the podcast. Is this
I probably have more money in my bank account than you right now, but
definitely? But is this a situation where we might be seeing? Do I have implied authority in this situation because you might be wanting some money? I wonder.
Oh.
Actually, that's a good point. You know, you were saying about that. Do you think that getting but that banks have authority over people when they're in debt to them?
It depends how much debt.
Yeah.
Because if it's thousands, then yeah, they have authority over you. But if it's millions, you have authority over them.
Right. Okay. Maybe I didn't get in enough debt then. Maybe we should have.
That's a joke, by the way, but it is functionally how banks work.
Maybe we should have gone to the Polynesian instead of Caribbean beach.
Well, you'd have to be a billionaire or something.
Yeah. But
if you're in enough debt that the bank can't continue to survive without your money, then that's when the bank is trying to do everything to.
What you mean, like what happened when they had to be bailed out by the government?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, who's the bitch now?
Well, they also started just investing lots of money into housing and shit like that, and then house prices. I don't know. I don't know enough about the economy to talk shit about it.
Have you got
it's boring?
Talking about housing and the lack thereof at different times, have you made any decisions about, are you planning on staying where you are next year, or are you going to be looking for?
I can't be fucked with the whatever that was again.
You're happy with where you are, though. Yeah,
it's not great for getting to uni, but
yeah. What have you got to do? Catch a bus or?
Got to catch two buses, and the only bus that goes by here isn't the most reliable.
Have you got free bus travel?
No, because I keep forgetting to do it.
But you should have free bus travel, shouldn't you?
I should, because I'm under 22, but I'm an idiot.
No, don't be hard on yourself. You're a victim in some ways. This is why we should maybe look at getting some kind of reassessment done now that Scotland's in charge of it and not.
I think they're still pretty shit on mental health stuff. They might be better on physical health stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I still do have a physical disability as well.
Yeah.
Which is why it's more of an issue that I can pretty much only travel by one bus route, because if I do have to walk back or walk to in Aberdeen, there's the number 1, which is the main bus thing that's quite regular. It also has the number 2, which is.
Sorry, I'm just being really childish now. It's a bit shit.
Basically, there's a bunch of buses that just go through like the city centre, which are fairly regular.
Have you been
Now
on
I
one of them?
can
Sorry.
walk down to where those go, like that intersects with one of my
Intersects.
intersects.
Oh, sorry. Have you been on one of those?
Doing that hurts me enough that I can't do stuff the next day sometimes because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Have you been on one of those hydrogen buses yet?
I assume so. They're all over the place.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to have a look at your background. I was just trying to see what is that on top of your fridge?
Pack of Stella, which is not mine. Someone brought it over at a party and we've not cleaned it up. Ended up on top of the fridge somehow.
Well, it's going to be handy, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's not the actual Stellas, like the cans. It's just the cardboard.
I mean, see, with us recording this on a Friday evening, I might actually get this published by the end of the weekend. It was a few days last time before it got out, but yeah. I had to. Do you know what though? With it being a year since I've done the last one, I had to. I had to think about how to actually process it and edit it. Not edit it because I don't bother with editing, but you know what I mean. Put it together, and that I'd forgotten how to do it. Fucking hell! Knock it back.
Do you know who's coming to Aberdeen soon? Well, not very soon, but soonish.
Who?
Nigel Farage.
Oh, why?
He's on a tour of his GB News show, but they won't release the venue until 24 hours before for security concerns.
Okay. I mean, 24 hours is plenty of time to rig a bomb, isn't it? I didn't say that. Oh, shit. I shouldn't have said that because you can get in trouble. See, this is a freedom of speech thing, isn't it? I didn't mean that. I didn't.
Well, I think it's more for milkshakes than that, but
Milkshakes?
yeah, he got a milkshake tossed at him a while ago, and McDonald's stopped selling milkshakes because of it for a while.
If you're going to toss anything, might as well make it a milkshake, eh? Pardon me.
Which the funniest thing about was Burger King responding by saying, like, we still have milkshakes. You can still buy them here.
McDonald's milkshakes are half the time are unavailable anyway because their ice cream machines don't work very well. So sue me. Excuse me while I suck off my hobgoblin.
Poor hobgoblin.
Oh, gobble gobble. Pardon me. So,
are we arriving at a plateau, or do you have more to say?
Oh, well, maybe. I mean, I was thinking, I don't have a countdown yet. I did say to Mum that we're in 40-minute chunks, and I could see that we'd probably be drawing to a close in the next in this chunk at some point. But
yeah, sure.
So what is the situation with breaking borders? This feels more natural, but at the same time, I recognise that you've put a lot of work into breaking borders, so I don't have any.
I mean, it's mainly I still have the research for South Africa, and we've not done part 3 yet.
That just goes to show, doesn't it? Because I was about to say I do realise that we've still got an episode to do on Portugal, but that was South Africa, wasn't it? So it has been long. Yeah, so I'm happy to finish off South Africa.
So the next thing that we'd do, which I think was Thailand, I would have to do a whole new batch of research.
Well, bearing in mind that you're in 3rd year and have enough to do, do you think it's probably better if we just chat bollocks, but maybe a bit more regularly than we
can? Okay. I mean, if you're still fine with it, we can not necessarily do it like alternating, but we can do it where it's like once I've got the research ready for the next chunk, then we can put together a breaking borders and do that occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think realistically we're going to be in a position where we can schedule, like, say, there's going to be an episode of something every month, because there's going to be months when I'm really busy and when you're really busy. But such as this week, where I found myself free on a Friday night, and you are as well, we just threw it together and did the thing.
Speaking of, I'm going to be away for most of April.
Oh yeah, and you going on holiday?
Yeah,
Holiday.
I've booked hotels and stuff and planned out where we're going properly.
Cool.
So we're going to Berlin, Prague, and Vienna
Oh, I'm kind of jealous.
with my boyfriend,
Yeah, I'm
who shall remain unnamed for reasons.
legal reasons.
I don't know how comfortable he is with being public online and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, extreme coincidences do happen, but I'd be very surprised if anyone relevant. But yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is kind of, I mean, you were kind of talking about like, do you have authority over me if you financially support me? It's a position that a lot of my friends end up in where they rely on support from their parents, and their parents are much less awesome than you are.
oh, thank you. Do you know what? That was really weird. I heard that coming out of my chest, and it was like somebody else was doing it. I'm having an out of body experience. But no, that's really nice. I do appreciate being appreciated.
In terms of being a young disabled trans person, you're pretty cool.
Oh, I'm not a young disabled trans person.
No,
Though.
but I am.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It means a lot to me to know. Kind of
But
make.
a lot of people in a similar situation to me aren't as fortunate with family, so
I
if
mean,
they do require them for support, they're kind of forced into the closet or just sort of have to put up with their bullshit.
nobody's perfect. I have made some mistakes along the way, but in general, I'm glad that you feel that way in general. You know.
Yeah, you're still a knob, but
Yeah. Well, I can't give you everything. I mean, got to save something for myself, haven't I? That didn't make any sense whatsoever. But anyway,
anyway.
then are we finished?
Do you have any further thoughts on authority or anything in the news or anything?
um, Not really. I mean, nothing that couldn't wait until next time. It's just a lot of it is. I mean, we try to relate the subject to general philosophy and the current news, and obviously there'll be other news happening between now and next time. But generally, it's just a bit of a catch up, isn't it? With a bit of guide.
I do want to brag a bit though.
Do you?
The protest, which I kind of co-organized, I posted the Facebook event for it and stuff.
I thought you were going to tell me your boobs are getting bigger. Sorry, carry on. I've derailed you there, haven't I? Go on, brag about what? Your protest?
Christian Allard, who is a Aberdeen city councillor, but also formerly an member of the European Parliament, and headed up the SNP delegation to the European Parliament, spoke at the protest event.
And did you say you were instrumental in organising that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of my best friends that put it all together, and they don't know how to do tech stuff really that well, other than messaging people. So I posted it on social media and stuff.
Excellent. Well done. Well, I'm very proud of you as well, then. You're turning out to be a thing in the world.
It's weird. It was a while ago, like last year, I think I got invited by someone who was like wanting to do like their research project for uni at RGU on trans stuff, and wanted to ask some people like their opinions. And I ended up going for the LGBT forum and realized I think I'm an expert on something.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, getting it from the horse's mouth, as it were. I mean,
Yeah,
I know you're not identifying as a horse, but you know what I mean.
nay, nay.
Actually, that brings back memories. Do you remember
Christ.
the Forbidden
No,
Corner?
I don't remember, but I've been told it.
Yeah, that's a story for another time. It was a very cute childhood, well, a very cute parenthood moment. But I think you must have been about 3 or something at the time.
I think it was in Yorkshire, which was
Yeah,
significant somehow.
yeah. I think the place is called the Forbidden Corner, which sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? Really, it's like a kind of maze place. But there was a horse thing there, and we said, "What do horses say?" And you just went, "Nay." I think there was something like that. Don't know, but it was very cute at the time. Anyway, I feel like this is running out of steam. Shall we wind it up?
Sure.
Okay. Do the thing, Elwing.
Oh, we're doing the
Sorry.
we're
Oh,
doing the outro.
do we? Yeah. Well, we do. We do still say goodbye. I mean, we do still say hello and goodbye properly, don't we? Even though we
Yeah, sure. All right.
I ought to check actually on the Spreadshirt site because for all we know, somebody might have bought something. I just haven't logged in for ages, so there might be.
I fucking doubt it.
Well, when you were at school, somebody bought one of our backpacks, didn't they?
Yeah, but I knew them.
Do you not know people anymore?
Well, not people that buy our merch.
Mm.
Maybe the knob.
You bought me a T-shirt. I have a Breaking Dad T-shirt.
Oh yeah. I thought that was a nice present for you.
Yeah, it's still almost good as new because I haven't been slim enough to fit into it for a long time. So I'm dieting again. I'm on the treadmill and stuff. Actually, I'm gonna like sort of because we've still got a bit of time left. It's not doing a countdown yet. I've started doing a new social media thing. Craig's fault, but it's not as annoying as all the other ones that I do. Have you heard of Be Real?
Yeah, but I don't know what it is though, really.
Basically you get a prompt once a day at a random time, any time of the day you get a prompt, and you basically got 2 minutes to take a photo of whatever you're doing, and it uses both cameras, so it'll take a front photo and one of you smiling as well, or doing whatever face for the rear camera at the same time, and then you just post it. So it's like you get to see like the real lives of people that are
But I don't want anyone to see my real life. What if I'm taking a shit? What if
Well, I wouldn't.
What if I look
You
like
have a choice. You don't have to post it. You can post them late. It's just that the challenge is to be on time with it. So whatever you're doing in that 2 minute, because sometimes I'm like,
it falls when you're asleep.
well, then you'll be late. I mean, sometimes I'm at school where I've got a very, very patchy signal, so it'll be like 3 hours late when I post it. But it is. I mean, I've got a few people on it, a couple of people on it that, one of which actually I've not spoken to for years, and it's actually been quite nice just seeing, because like one night I posted a picture of me making myself an espresso, and they made a comment about how it was completely contrasting to their picture, because their picture that day was them on the sofa with an innocent gun in hand. so it's nice. It's mundane stuff, but it's nice just to kind of. And it was Craig's fault. I keep mentioning that cunt, but it was his fault because he wants to see Scottish mountains every day. I did point out I'm not actually in the Scottish mountains every day, but you know.
Yeah, you're near enough. One, I guess you drive by it, but like,
yeah, one of these days it'll coincide. But there's been 2 pictures of a treadmill so far, so
I haven't.
might get a gig.
Rennie since I was like 10, I think. So,
well, I mean, it's entirely up to you. The timer just came up. We've got just under 10 minutes before this chunk finishes. I actually need a piss, so should we maybe finish the main segment and then do some after bollocks?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You want to do the outro? Do you have any other Bollocks that's part of the main podcast to bollock on about.
Well, who's in charge? Who has the authority to make that decision?
Well, you make your own decisions. You're your own.
Yeah,
You're
but
your own man.
it's not my podcast, is it? It's our podcast.
Yeah,
So
but if you have
I'm not,
anything else to say, I want to hear it.
I'm not in a position of authority, is what I've got to say. That's my
Well, do
authoritative
you have
statement.
anything else to say?
Yes, I authoritatively say that I have nothing left to say.
Okay, if you say so. Anyway,
I insist.
I have been Fireball.
And I have been the Orbiter. Don't know, say that in German, sorry.
This has been Breaking Bollocks episode 85, I think.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Authority.
Bye.
Not much about authority. Bye. You're making a face.
I think that was quite a good episode, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had a message back from Craig. The screenshot of him of you giving the finger to the screen, and he said "little cunt."
I love them too.
Oh. I'm sure it'll be made up. So what are we gonna? Yeah, he'll be made up to be loved in the afterbirth. How do we?
Sounds like quite a dodgy like nightclub or something.
Loved up in the afterbirth. Afterbirth would be a really good sort of name for an after-hours club.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, sorry. Completely fucked that up, didn't I? I'm gonna gobble my hobgoblin again.
We've been so we got because I'm a nerd about countries and stuff. Been playing through the old Pro Evolution Soccer 2008 game.
All right.
And decided to get ourselves the 2014 World Cup game because that has every country in it rather than just a select few.
Every country in the world?
Well, every country that participated in qualifiers for the 2014 World Cup.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of like a bunch of random Caribbean shit, and we just decided, fuck this, we're not playing these matches because we've just gotten bored of it.
I occasionally dip back into Fall Guys.
Nice.
But...
Oh yeah, we did play a bit of PES 2008 for Bob, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. Until the point where I started to be a threat.
Yeah.
But I did actually think sometime when you're home, I should, or at my home, well, you still call it home, I suppose, but you know what I mean.
I'm not especially attached to this place.
I don't know. There's the fairly recent, like this year's version, or at least last year's version of the FIFA games. I don't know if they're any good.
Well, that was the thing that we were looking at, is that the new FIFA games, they don't have the national teams.
Oh, right, okay.
They just have a ridiculous amount of clubs, and I think the national teams as DLC for.
Oh, right. Oh, what?
When there is a World Cup. I think so.
Well, that makes sense.
It's EA, so they're money grabbing bastards.
Yeah. What else am I playing? I was into As Dusk Falls, but I haven't played it for a few days because I've been a bit busy at work and stuff. But
yeah, you mentioned to me.
Last of Us is now on Sky as a original Sky series, so I'm going to have a look at that, see if that's any good. But yeah,
someone said actually, this isn't very true to the game because the first time that he meets clickers, which are like an enemy in the game, he doesn't die 14 times and then quit.
Fair enough.
But I've been playing through a game called Pentiment, actually, which is kind of it's like a narrative game set in the 1500s.
All right. I wonder if that's on Game Pass, because I have seen the
It
name.
might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you basically play as a painter in like a small town in Bavaria,
All right. Okay.
trying to solve a murder, and then it's quite moving in some ways because the town, because like you come back like years later and the town like moves on with time, and
Okay.
different people die, and
Yeah.
the town changes because it's like all about history and stuff. And
I feel like we're up against the clock now because we've only got 3.5 minutes of bollocks left. I was going to say something. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, it's really pissing me off how much some of the kids at school just won't. I mean, like if you're going to fuck about in class and not fuck about, but not actually do the music work, and if you're just going to sit around chatting, then at least not make it not about constantly about Fortnite, because it's like. I don't, I'll let kids get away with not actually doing their work if they're not likely to carry on doing music, as long as they're not disrupting anyone else. So I'll join in and have a bit of a banter with them. But they're talking about fucking Fortnite all the time, and I'm like, come on. Anyway, I want this to turn into whinging about my pupils.
these days,
I know.
damn youths.
I'm actually quite desperate for a piss, so I'm gonna say we've only got like a couple of minutes of this left anyway. So shall we draw it to a close while we still have some authority over how that happens?
Okay, sure. I mean, we've already done the outro, so
yeah, I could just let it run out. We could just be talking, and at some point it'll just cut off.
I suppose so.
Yeah. It's 20th of January. What the fuck? Oh, I just went and with the tour we're doing, and I'm gonna need to get onto that Aida medley, aren't I? Get some audio to you. Did I tell you they've got a drum kit sorted out for you?
Yeah, Nan's been talking to me about stuff and showing me.
I've gotten an offer to do a trumpet solo now as well.
Christ.
Well, I'm getting my playing back on track because I've got a show coming up and I've got concerts coming up. So it's a good excuse. It's always an incentive to actually carry on practicing when you've got stuff coming up. So I don't mind, offering, because it means I've got something to practice for. Otherwise, I'm liable to just give up and have to start all over again.
I'm waiting to get to one of the open mic nights at Krakatoa's because they apparently have sessions and stuff where I might be able to play some drums with the house band.
Cool. That would be good. It's a good venue, that, actually. Grassroots.
Yeah. Well, a couple of annoying things have happened the last few times I've been there, but like some random guy at the bar telling my friend who uses a walking stick that they don't look like they need a walking stick. Just being a cunt. Why would you say that to a stranger anyway?
Yeah. At some point, this is going to cut off. It just says less than a minute, so yeah. Hopefully, it'll be before I piss myself.
Hopefully, it would be a climactic way to end the episode.
I have authority over my bladder. I wouldn't. I mean, that doesn't imply that even after it's cut off that I am still going to piss myself. I do fully intend to make it to the bathroom. I feel like I'm just stretching things out now. That's probably the wrong wordage, but
Also, by the way, if this does cut off, feel free to put it on afterwards, non-recorded, so we can just chat.
Yeah, I might need to go for a piss though first. Do you want your mum to come and say hello as well?
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.